Okay, so welcome everybody to this recording. So this is the first podcast that I am doing, and it's to be shown on a new Facebook page that I felt really guided to start at the beginning of the year, and it's entitled Sharing a Course in Miracles. And it's for this is a heartfelt conversation, and they're with either students or teachers of the course. And of course, we're both the same. We're both teacher and student. And so today, I am delighted to have my wonderful, mighty companion and friend here, Brenda Denham. So welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here with you.
Yeah. And I really felt for you to be the first person. You really came into my mind. And really, why that is because I spent a few days with you, I don't know, about a month ago, and I really felt very grateful for that opportunity. And we first met back in September 2020.
Wow, I was wondering the date exactly myself.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, so we went to the Living Miracles Centre in Mallorca, and it's no longer there now, but I spent a month there co-living, and you were there co-living as well, but you ended up staying for 2 months.
I did.
And we'd never met before, but we had a great time, and it was a wonderful experience. And so really what, for me, my kind of, what would be the word? The feeling that I always get from you, Brenda, is that you, and these are the sort of the things I want to kind of talk to you about, is your devotion, is the way you practice forgiveness, your kindness, and how you really do listen to the Holy Spirit, and you want to give everything to the Holy Spirit. And that inspires me. And I think it's such a great way to bring this in for people wherever they are on their journey with the course, because as we know, to start with, we have got no idea how to connect with the Holy Spirit, with no idea what voice we're listening to. But as we continue this amazing awakening journey, that starts to open up more and more. And so that's really why I wanted to share this with you today and with our people who are listening. So with that in mind, I'd like to just ask you, because I know that every day you sit with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and you meditate and you talk to Jesus, and that's your devotion. So would you be happy just to share how that looks for you and what you experience when that happens?
Yes, of course I would. And of course, it's taken many years to get to this stage. It was a long time. And I feel it's important, perhaps, that I say this. It was a long time before I heard the Holy Spirit directly. For a long time, when I prayed for guidance, I would hear it in all sorts of different guises, but I'd be guided to open a book, or I'd hear a song on the radio, see a bumper sticker. I think this is very common in the beginning. Or, to my amazement, one of my children would talk to me, and I just knew it was the Holy Spirit talking through them, even though they weren't interested in the course at that time or studying it. It came from many different people, and in particular ones that I didn't expect it to come from. But I prayed for guidance, and then suddenly somebody would say something to me, and I thought, wow, that's the answer. So it took a long time. And then when I really started to pray ask for help, for direct guidance, for a long time, many, many months, I would keep praying, and the answer, or the only thing I could hear was, you're not listening. You're not listening. Time and time again, you have to learn to listen. And what I didn't really get at that time was the listening part was completely letting go of the reins. And this was I still needed to be in charge at that time. And so it took a lot of practice to eventually start to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. I still heard it in other ways, and I still do now. Somebody will say something to me, one of our group, something from our group, a friend, and still, in particular, my daughter. And I just, because she's not afraid to say, well, Mum, you said, and I think, hello, that's the Holy Spirit. So I still hear it in other ways as well, but I do spend time every morning. It's been no effort for some time for me to get up really early because I want to spend that time with God and the Holy Spirit. And devoting that time has really given me results. I can spend that time, I can let anything that's there for me, I can bring it up and give it to the Holy Spirit and ask for guidance. And I do ask for guidance, throughout the day. Yeah, as it tells us from the Course, that we can do this. We can ask. I ask and I do receive. And the beautiful part is the contrast. So I know immediately if I haven't been listening to guidance, because suddenly my mind's gone ahead or into the past. My thoughts become scattered and things go wrong. And you listen to your guidance, and it's just the peace within. I don't even actually through the day, particularly, I hear a voice in the morning, but through the day, it's just a knowing what to do next.
Yeah.
And the loving, gentle guidance to stay in the present moment. You always know if it is the guidance from the Holy Spirit because it's so loving and so gentle.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. I think that's really important to bring into this, because it's very common, isn't it, when you're trying to connect to the Holy Spirit? It's like, well, which voice am I hearing? And we always, we hear that it says the ego always speaks first. But I think what you said, and I'm finding that myself, is that when it is the Holy Spirit, as you say, it's very loving and very kind, isn't it? And I always feel peaceful. It's like, even if there's a decision in form to be made and I'm praying and I'm asking for guidance, when it comes in, it feels peaceful.
Yeah.
Sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, that is a real, you can feel the peace. I do think that if I'm in the past have been unsure, I would always say you feel this peace kind of, if you want to use your body, you would feel the peace around the heart area. If it's still the Holy Spirit, if it's not the Holy Spirit and it's still the ego, then I would tend to feel it more in my solar plexus, which is, that kind of excitement that you get from the ego, the wrongness of it. That was in the beginning. I don't get those feelings there now because it's all in the mind. And it always occurs in the mind and not in the body. But originally, that was how I started to know the difference between the guidance from the Holy Spirit or listening to the analyzing mind of the ego.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. That's really useful, as you say. If you started to feel in the form, which we all start, that's where we all start, or wherever we are on our journey, we're obviously still here in this form, this body, until we're completely, just connected to the Holy Spirit in the mind. But and it was interesting you saying that the solar plexus kind of feeling of excitement and things. I think we've quite often almost encouraged to feel that in the world, aren't we? Oh, it's good if it's exciting. But actually, So what your experience is that that's more of an ego, because it's more of a getting. Would you say something like that, or more
I
of a...
think very much so. Yeah, the excitement comes from something we're going to get in form, and of course that's always temporary.
Yes.
It has to be from spirit. It's something that is everlasting.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. That feels really lovely. Yes, and one thing also you were saying now, it is about the mind. And so again, I'd like to just explore that a little bit more, because I know for me that shift is probably still happening. But it is more about joining in the mind now. I realize that that is the only true joining, because the Course is very clear that it's only well, if we've got the ego thought system, the ego mind, it's sick. That's a sick mind.
Yeah.
But when we're with the Holy Spirit, that's the healing is in that, quote, mind, because it's not us that does the healing, it's the Holy Spirit. And so again, is there anything that you can share from your experience that's helped you to settle into that space of joining in the mind, and how that kind of, quote, looks for you or feels for you?
Yes, and it's been quite interesting. And like you, I am still, my mind is still being trained. And in particular, the words I hear very often from the Holy Spirit is minds are joined, bodies are not. And I hear these words, which are from the Course, when living on my own. I have experienced some people settle in beautifully to living on their own and never get feelings of loneliness. And this has been my big learning, has been loneliness. I will suddenly be overwhelmed with the feeling I'm here on my own, which of course we know can only come from the ego thought system. And I've been able to sit with that quite desolate feeling of loneliness and join with the Holy Spirit and just let those feelings be there. And of course, as we're healing our minds, what happens is the time that we spend in that place gets shorter and shorter as we're healing. It's true that it never comes back, that particular feeling of loneliness, but loneliness per se will come back again. It has, even a few weeks ago, but not very quickly. I knew exactly, I heard the same words, minds are joined, bodies are not. And I even have spent time just sitting quietly and joining with our lovely prayer and share group and just feeling that oneness with all of their minds. The one mind, really, not all of their minds, just joining in the one mind. And the loneliness goes very quickly. And I can see that it is an illusion, that it's not the truth.
Yeah. And I think, I can really relate, Brenda, because when we're trying to figure it out, I want to join with the Holy Spirit, decide for me and everything. It's almost like the body, the figure, the character of Anne-Marie is trying to figure it out. And again, that's part of our healing, isn't it? That's part of our realizing that we can never do it, as you say, from the form, from the body. It's only the mind. And I love that you said, your experience of when you've had the loneliness, and I've experienced that too. And whatever it is that comes up that it can feel quite overwhelming, or we want to escape from it. But the key which you so beautifully explained, is actually we have to be with it, welcome it, and not distract or, you know, run away. I mean, if we do that, we don't make us wrong for doing that. But the healing comes from when we can allow it to come, because the Course reminds us that we have to bring all of the so-called darkness to the light. And the light is the Holy Spirit, and the darkness is those egoic thoughts, the fears, the judgments, etc. And if we then distract or go somewhere else, we're back in form, and we haven't joined in the mind where the healing is with the Holy Spirit. And as you say, that giving us the dedication to that time, the devotion to doing that is the key, isn't it? Because the ego obviously wants us to distract, right? Or do something. So for you, I know you've been studying the Course, almost since the beginning, isn't it? 30 odd years or?
Yes, it is 30 odd years. Yes.
Yeah. And so now, obviously, with all the mind training and the forgiveness opportunities, and you're at a point where your choice is completely, you just want to be with Jesus and the Holy Spirit. There's no kind of like distracting these days, would you say? It's just like brushing your teeth, I guess, every day. You sit with God, you sit with Holy Spirit.
Yes. I would say that my day is dedicated to that and to being guided with the Holy Spirit. But, you know, my life is very normal. I spend time with my family. If I'm invited to a party, I'll go to a party. You just do it with the Holy Spirit, whatever it is. And it can seem very lightweight in the world, but that doesn't matter. You know, the world will be the world. It's not about the world. It's about our mind and our connection with the Holy Spirit. Yeah, and occasionally, I saw so clearly in the past, I've had a choice when I have felt lonely. You're so right, Anne-Marie, you can distract away, because I would occasionally put the television on, and it had to be terrestrial telly, so that something that was happening in the moment, maybe even the local news. I'm not so keen on the general news, but occasionally that as well. But they always present with good forgiveness opportunities anyway. But just feel that connection, and you know, Holy Spirit showed me that you will never connect properly that way. That is just a distraction. So even the thought that in the past, I need to reach out and phone somebody, that would be temporary. And sometimes I would hear something that would help with the healing, but mostly it is between you and the Holy Spirit that the healing is done. In my experience, anyway.
Sure. Yeah. And I think I know for it's interesting. I'm just reflecting, because I guess whatever our particular flavor is of how we've lived our lives, you know, for me, my kind of automatic default was to retreat from people and actually isolate, instead of actually sharing things that were happening for me. So I wouldn't share it to people, and I wouldn't share it with the Holy Spirit, because I didn't know how to do that. So I became even more kind of lost in that. And I know for part of my journey was to learn to actually express with other people that I felt safe with, that could hold a space and not fix me.
Yeah.
That it became like, oh my God, I suppose as I'm speaking, I'm realizing it helped me to get in touch with how I felt, actually, and my emotions, if I could start to express it to someone. And then that was part of it, bringing it up. But I think the missing piece for me for a long time is, well, then what? But the then what now is the Holy Spirit, isn't it? And the forgiveness.
Yeah.
So that's the key. And so the being able to share it, for me, started with sharing it with another so-called body, another person. And then it deepened more. Oh, so there's I can do it with the Holy Spirit or with Jesus, or for me to start with, it was the angels. That was a doorway for me. Because again, I know for many people, the course's terminology can be challenging, the Holy Spirit and atonement and all that stuff. And that's part of our healing too, isn't it? Because it certainly was for me. Did you have any blocks around any of that?
Oh, yes, a great deal. Yeah, great many. I mean, the course does use the word and does mention angels.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I had a huge block at first. When the course first came to England, it was a green book. And I think I got it pretty quickly when it came here. 1986 rings a bell, so a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure that's the date that it did come to England, but it well could be. And I went into a bookstore looking for a self-help book. So I was really interested in Louise Hay, somebody like that. And this book was right on the top shelf and it was tilted out. It was a long time ago. So in my mind, I put my hand up and it kind of fell into my hand in my mind. Whether that really happened, I don't know. But that's how it appeared to me anyway. And I knew I had to buy it immediately. It was a huge prompt that I absolutely knew I had to buy it. So I bought it. But when I got it home and opened it, I was like, oh my goodness. You know, I'm trying to get away from all this Christian terminology and religion, and this is so. And I literally closed it and put it to one side for a good few months. And then it draws you back to it somehow, because although I felt like that when I first looked at it, the terminology, there was an underlying something that was powerful there.
Yeah.
And just kept drawing me back to it whenever I opened it, read some, and I'm not sure about this, but I guess I recognised the truth underneath it all.
Yeah.
And then the time came when I was ready to, a good few years actually, of dipping in and out and not being sure, and before I actually did study it more seriously.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, dipping in and out to start with. And I think it's good to share this, because sometimes, you know, the ego can give us a hard time thinking, well, you should be getting it, and what's wrong with you? Why aren't you, you know? And I think it's good, again, that we can normalize this journey, because it's
very normal.
Yeah, I mean, the course says it's an individualized curriculum, so we're going to come to it differently, and our journey will never look the same as everyone else. The destination is guaranteed for all of us, but that whole journey looks very different. And I think it's so good to normalize it. And you know, I also had that experience myself, and I work with people who, if they're new to it, they say the same. Oh, I can't do the lessons every day, or I don't like this word, or. But it's part of the journey, isn't it? As you say, to flush up the blocks. And so if that's a block to using the Holy Spirit, or I know for quite a few it's Jesus, and that it was for me, because I didn't, you know, for me, Jesus was to do with a religion, and I didn't want a religion. And so I think, I mean, over the years, you know, I think what's so important, and like you've shared, if we ask, it is given, and that can look in just a throwaway comment, if you like, or specifically to the Holy Spirit as we start to pray more mindfully, I guess. The answer will come, won't it?
It always does. It always comes. And I feel I'd also like to say that although all this, my time in the beginning of the day, and is dedicated to the Holy Spirit, the guidance of the Holy Spirit, the course tells us very clearly that we cannot go home without our brothers. So it is, although it is a curriculum where it says it's a self-study course as well, but it also makes it very clear that it is about oneness and not separating. So as you say, I think I would say that I'm an introvert, so could very easily go into that place. And the course has taught me how important our brothers on the journey are, and how important joining also is on our journey.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that brings us to look at the topic of forgiveness, as the course helps us to look at. And you said, you know, that we can't go home alone. We need all our brothers.
Yes.
And again, I think this is such a challenge to our identity as an ego. I mean, the course is very clear that there's only one of us here.
Yes.
Which is the mind. It's not, again, it's not these bodies. The ego peopled the world. And so, again, I'd love to hear, maybe something might come into your mind of an example where maybe there was a challenging relationship or situation with somebody where you were practicing the forgiveness, and how that looked, or if there were any aha moments when you realized what the true meaning of forgiveness from the course's perspective means. Because it is a big topic for a lot of people, because we get the metaphysics quite often, and we get the courses saying it, and I go, you know, I used to go, yeah, but and then, so how is the practicals? So what's your experience of that, if you can think of?
I've had a couple of really, really big forgiveness opportunities in my life. And I think possibly the one that springs to mind is my ex-husband. Even though it's not a term I like, ex-husband, but yes. And I think that was my biggest forgiveness opportunity, because looking back, I can see now that we could have actually stayed together unhealed that way. Now I know the script was already written. I know that wasn't meant to be. But the beautiful thing is we are the very best of friends. In fact, I met him for coffee in the town. But I will say that he did blame our original split on my spiritual studies, and in particular the course. Partly, I wouldn't say altogether. I was just thinking, if he was here and I was asking him, he might have slightly different slant on it. But on the whole, I think he would say that I was preoccupied probably with that, less than with the family and him. So it was a big forgiveness opportunity. There wasn't any other person involved in our split. And we had quite a difficult time to start with. It felt right at the time for me. I felt I had to be free. And over the years, he has come back with quite a lot of anger. And I suddenly started to join and understand and appreciate, and then suddenly see it all came from me. And that's how the forgiveness journey really started. As I started to see, I was forgiving my brother for what he had never done. And the contrast, when you start to really get that forgiveness and the peace that comes in, it was a continual journey. We would meet somewhere and the anger from the past would all come up again. And eventually I was able to sit with him and let him express all his hurt feelings, and hear the Holy Spirit say, just stay in the light, stay with him, see past it, see past it. And it was such a wonderful forgiveness opportunity. It really was.
Mm.
And the lovely, beautiful outcome of that is he's now studying the Course in Miracles.
Amazing, isn't
it? Yeah, and doing absolutely wonderfully well. And we can meet for a coffee now, and we laugh, we joke, it's friendly. And the contrast, the Holy Spirit does teach us through contrast, is so beautiful. When the forgiveness is done, it is just so lovely. And that's the important thing. At first, it's very hard to grasp that you're forgiving your brother for what he has never done. And as I started to see all my own projections and the feeling that the ego needs in the beginning to make someone else the guilty person, so you're innocent, I'm the nice person in all this, they're guilty. And when we have our original, looking back on my journey, my original hidden fear of God was very hidden, because if somebody had said to me, you're afraid of God, I'd have denied it. I would say, no, I want God. I'm not afraid of God. But now I see very much that I was. And then, of course, you're innocent. Go after him. He's the guilty one. And that sort of helps you or the ego mind, to feel safe. When, of course, that's just not the truth at all. But originally, you can see that. And then when you start to bring it all back to your own mind, and with the help of the Holy Spirit, allow it to be healed there, the contrast, because it tells us in the Course, the Holy Spirit teaches us through contrast, is so strong that when you go back into that projection, it feels so uncomfortable that you do, as quickly as possible, you bring that back to your own mind and do the forgiveness there with the help of the Holy Spirit, so that the peace returns and the love in your mind returns.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah, it's lovely to hear, Brenda. And I think there's so much in that, because just as you were sharing the line from the Course that said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? The ego, my God, does it want to be right to start with, especially in the situation you were talking with an ex. I can say exactly the same, with my ex-husband. Before I was aware of any of this, it was he had the problem. It's his. Just if he would change, everything would be just wonderful.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, yes. And then as you get deeper into the Course, or you start to, as you say, do the mind training, you see the Course helps us amazingly to see that it, like you said, it's actually the guilt from seemingly leaving our father that we're actually projecting onto our brother. So we think it looks like, oh, they did this, the government did that, or this country did that. And that's just an ego smokescreen, isn't it? For us to distract again and blame. But actually, like you said, I had no idea that I had a fear of God, like same as you. So I heard people used to say that, and I think, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's so, so deeply hidden, isn't it? And the Course, again, helps us to start gently to reveal that. And we then start to see that every grievance, every judgment is the same, because we're projecting our guilt out. And so the forgiveness is then realizing, as you said, that your brother has done nothing, and it was just in our mind being mirrored by whomever.
Perfectly back to us.
Yeah.
What I've also found interesting recently, as I started to feel that I've forgiven everyone in my life, situations are turning up that I need to forgive. You think, wait, done and dusted, forgiven everybody. And all of a sudden, these grievances come up from situations, simple things like a contract with somebody that they say that you've signed, and well, I didn't do that, and so that was a situation. I live in a housing association flat, and a letter from them saying you've got Christmas decorations outside and it's a fire hazard, take your wreath in, you're not allowed to have a wreath, you're not allowed to have a doormat. And it's all these, and that immediately brings up this, which I thought was healed, this unfairly treated. It's so interesting. So these situations, which did happen last Christmas, it wasn't this year, but it's interesting. And also the phone thing was a while ago, but even so, still these occasional little grievances that are a situation that happens. So you do have to be vigilant only for God and his kingdom, as the Course tells us, because you think, lovely, all done and dusted there.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's like we seemingly have the big ones, but of course, again, the Course is clear, there's no hierarchy of illusions, there's no small or big, it's exactly the same. And that again can be very challenging for us, can't it, to think, well, no, this is big. And we don't deny, obviously, that, you know, what it's bringing up for us. And I think this is also important, isn't it, to allow what wants to come, you know, not deny the emotion, the anger, the upset. But again, it's not about then dumping it on somebody. It's, as you said, bringing it to the Holy Spirit in the mind.
And
I think when we get to that place, that's the job, really, isn't it? Is seeing when it comes, it's like, oh, okay, thank you. This is another opportunity.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's the feeling. It's the Course calls it being a happy learner, and I've always had a little bit of difficulty in feeling that I'm completely happy when these things pop up. I'll be honest about that. You know, I'm more likely to think, oh, another one. But I am able to say, well, if it was there, thank goodness it's come up for healing. That's what I am able to say, and to welcome that, and to really welcome it. And I always will sit with it as soon as I possibly can. If something happens when I'm out a situation, then it will be the first thing. I will drop everything because I want to return to that feeling of peace within.
Yeah. And I think as you were sharing that, Brenda, it reminded me that then we're not then the victim, you know, and it's the Course, I don't know what lesson it is, says, you know, I'm not a victim of the world I see. And so when we bring it back to the mind, not to the character of Anne-Marie or the character of Brenda, oh, I've obviously done something wrong, so I need to forgive it. No, again, it's the mind, isn't it?
It is.
And then, my God, I think that's one of the biggest shifts for me, was when I could shift from believing I could be a victim, because my God, did I have a victim, you know? I didn't realize it at the time. But when it started to shift and heal, it was like a massive weight had been lifted from me, because carrying that victim role, oh God, it's just awful.
Yes.
And so when we can, bring it back to the mind to think, no, okay, I haven't done anything wrong or right.
No.
It's just a faulty thought system. I've gone into the ego. And that is, my goodness, the freedom that comes when you realize you are not a victim of the world. Well, also we could go on another step there. There is no world. And then that could be maybe another podcast.
And no people or situations to forgive, really. But we do it step at a time, don't we? Yeah, absolutely beautifully. But I also remember, I suddenly, as you were talking, had a flashback to remembering that time when I felt so unfairly treated and felt like a victim in the world. It's so miserable. What a blessing the Course is. And the word you used that I think is really powerful, for me, is freedom. That's what it gives you. Not only peace, but freedom. You have this expanded feeling of being free.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful feeling with the love and peace in your mind. And when you let it leave you, for whatever reason, anything that's happened, appeared to happen in the world, you want it back as quickly as possible, because it's such an uncomfortable feeling to feel anything. And you know that the opposite is available to you in any moment.
Exactly. That's the choose again, isn't it? That's the vigilance as well, isn't it? And the mind training, all of it encompassed.
That's it. It is the mind training.
Yes. So another thing I really wanted to bring in before we close, and I think again, you've really demonstrated this for me, Brenda, when I first met you when we were in Mallorca. Your kindness and I think because this is my perception at the time, you may have a different, I don't know, but I was then still in this kind of, like Anne-Marie was had to do it, I think, still partly in that. And I think what I witnessed in you was there was no big fluster, there was no big whatever. You'd always just took it to the mind, whatever it was, and you were up pretty much every morning definitely before me. and was only 3 of us in the room, wasn't there? But because you just wanted to be with spirit, and you worked on that in your mind, or worked, that's not the words, but you were willing to join in that way.
Willingness,
and I think then, because you never got flustered or have any big tantrums or anything like that, I just felt the kindness from you. And you never lectured me, you'd never tell me what to do. I mean, we'd have joinings and you'd bring things in if the Holy Spirit guided you. And I think that gentleness and that kindness is so what's the word I want to use? It's probably more healing. And I think it's helped me, I mean, and other people as well, when I've seen they're not preaching, they're not saying you should do that, and why aren't you doing that? That kindness is actually more supportive in the long run, that I've seen, because it's a consistency, and I feel then safe. It's like, and that was something I hadn't figured out to start with, but I think over the last few years I've experienced both. I've experienced just the gentle, loving kindness of people and not trying to fix or preach, and I've had the other, and of course that's been in my mind. I've been both, of course, but I'm really seeing to settle in that kindness and gentleness is very powerful. So I want to say thank you first and foremost for being a demonstration of that. And is there anything you'd like to comment about that or experienced?
Yes, I think that because when I first studied the course, there was really only one teacher to listen to, which was Ken Wapnick. And even then it was through CDs, and we didn't have this wonderful thing that we've got now originally. And I remember from Ken saying, be kind, because everyone's fighting the same battle. And as you start to really take it deeply and understand, you're of course only being kind to yourself, so you're treating people how you would like to be treated, and it's just the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And to spread that kindness adds to your feeling of freedom. It really does, because it's like you're embracing, you're not separating, you're joining, aren't you? When you're kind, that's exactly what you're doing, and really it is a beautiful gift to yourself, if I'm honest. It really is. Yeah.
So if there's anyone out there listening to this struggling to be kind, maybe to themselves or to one particular, challenging person, is there anything that you would sort of share that may help them, that you've experienced?
Yes. Well, it really goes down to what the Course tells us, is to first realise that it's coming from your own mind, and just ask for help to take it back to your own mind, and ask for the kindness of the Holy Spirit to show you how to be kind to yourself. And it's the process. Part of being kind to yourself is not rushing yourself, forgiving yourself when you don't do it immediately. And as you start to show this kindness to yourself, you can't give something to somebody that you haven't got. So as you start to feel this kindness to yourself, letting yourself off the hook, forgiving yourself, not listening to the thoughts of the ego, it's that gentle kindness to yourself that allows you to start to want other people to feel that same way.
Yeah.
So I would say just start by just being gentle and kind with yourself. Forgive yourself first. It's just a thought. It's not reality. And just feel that kindness, gentleness of the Holy Spirit that will help you to heal your mind. It as I say, it really starts first of all with being kind to yourself. And it feels so good. You just want everyone else to feel the same way.
Yes, and it reminds me of really asking again God or the Holy Spirit or Jesus to help you, isn't it, as well? Because I know, I'm just bringing to mind a long time ago now, probably 20 years or so, when I was going through a divorce and breakup of a relationship, and very, very new to the Course. I mean, completely new. And when I was reading all this stuff in the Course about relationships, I was very, very confused. And I remember I didn't even call it God then. I used to call them upstairs. I couldn't even say that word. That's how, and I remember, and I was quite belligerent. I was quite almost having this tantrum and saying, well, if what you're telling me in this Course is true, then you need to bloody show me, because I've never seen a relationship that's this healthy and that's this, because I'd never witnessed it. All I'd seen was special love, right? As the world told us was love and was romance and all that stuff. I thought that's what love was. But it came, over the years, I started to see healthy, loving relationships, and I saw the key was communication. And of course, again, the communication has to start with our connection, doesn't it?
Yes.
And so I think because sometimes we're not able to be kind to ourselves in the early days. I wasn't, because I think I had so much stuff, I could be kind in certain ways, but so I think even that is to ask the Spirit or them upstairs, again, whatever you want to call them, show me how to do this, show me kind people or show me healthy relationships. And I can honestly say, and I'm sure you would say the same, that the Spirit will bring that in to show you and say, look, yes, it is here. And then that can be like inspiring to think, oh, wow, that's how it's done then. Because I was clueless on that one.
Then we gradually, you're quite right, Anne-Marie, it is a beautiful thing to ask. We're told we can't do it on our own anyway. And as we do, and as you say, we're shown these things, then we learn to trust, because we've asked and we've seen it, and then we start to really develop the trust in what we're hearing in our minds.
Yeah, which is key, isn't it?
It's key.
Yeah.
Developing the trust is key.
It really, really is. And for anyone who hasn't read that section, I'm sure most people have, but in the Manual for Teachers, the development of trust, when I first read that, I just cried, I sobbed, because it was like, there it was telling me exactly what was happening, this dismantling, this undoing. And it was like, oh my God, I'm not insane. This is a real thing, you know, it's happening, as it were.
Yeah. Some people say that it is okay to read the Manual for Teachers first, and there's such a lot of powerful stuff in there that, as you quite rightly say, once you read that, it's just showing you. You might try and guess where you are, and you'll be completely wrong. By my own experience.
And me too. Yeah, I'm there. Oh, I should be there. Why aren't I there? And who would that be? There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
As of course tells us we do not know our advances from our retreats. And that's always been very comforting to me when you feel that you've taken a step back. Those words from the Course, that you do not know your advances from your retreats.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So is there any little last golden nugget or little gem that you'd like to share? Anything that comes to your mind before we sort of say goodbye?
You mentioned it at the beginning, and I think it is a gem from the Course, and it's to realise not only what a blessing the Course is, but that the curriculum is highly individualised. Don't compare. Never compare yourself with anyone else, because you are that divine spark of individuality, and the Holy Spirit will guide you every step of the way if you will let him.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow, that's a lovely reminder for us all. Yeah, because the comparison, oh my goodness, it's can really put the nails in, can't it? I've certainly experienced that. Well, thank you, Brenda. I'm going to just leave us with a little quote from the Course I felt to share with everybody.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. It's been a great pleasure.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a joy, an absolute joy. And I'm sure that, just the joining, as you say, I always feel lighter when I join and have an intention behind it, you know, and I think that's why, we can really trust that people will come into our lives as well, that we can do this with. So the last little line, it's from The Forgotten Song, which is chapter 21. And it's the last line in that section of The Forgotten Song. And it just says, "The light in one awakens it in all. And when you see it in your brother, you are remembering for everyone."
Wow, totally beautiful. What a perfect ending.
Yeah, and that's the power of joining, isn't it? That's the power of really wanting to see your brother and know that we are just one. Yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie.
Oh, thank you. Bless you. Yeah, God bless. And just to say to anyone who's watching, if you want to come onto our Facebook page, we'll put it in the link underneath somehow, but it's called Sharing A Course in Miracles, and it's on Facebook, and you can come and say hello. So thank you, everybody. Bye for now.